The focus. The focus is here. Two middle-aged white men, graying beards, ready to talk sports. I almost sent out the title of the podcast tonight as "We're not effing here," so people would have been disappointed to come in thinking it was some sort of trick that we could actually see some.
We're not. By the way, just to be clear, that's not happening.
We were gonna sort of replicate something along the Paul Pierce line and see what would happen to our careers. I'm willing to roll the dice. I think more of us need to step up on behalf of Paul Pierce. I don't know what happened. I don't get it. His lifestyle doesn't upset me. I'm not saying I have strippers over the house twerking all the time and I'm smoking blunts, but would I do it? Yeah. So I feel like we've all been put under some limitation now once again by Disney. Canceling, and canceling. Who's next, Soren? Last night we were talking about how many shows Cofield and Company in Vegas over the years and other iterations of the show have done at strip clubs. Could we be next? The next deal that we cut with a strip club where we're doing live shows, could we be next? Could we be on the chopping block from Disney? It could happen.
Tell me exactly, I've heard about it, but I have not bothered to dive into exactly what he said. Tell me exactly. Is he suspended or is he out?
He's fired. No, they fired him. And neither side will comment on it. Paul Pierce has just kind of sent out a couple of messages, basically laughing that they got rid of him. And ESPN will not comment on it. I was trying to read up on it again tonight, and I'm like, no, there's no details here.
Yeah.
So all it was he posted an IG video. He's sitting there having a good time. He's smoking a blunt, right? It's probably weed, right? He's in California where it's legal. He's in his own house. He's got a lady, and I think his wife was there, but and I don't think either one of the women were his wife, but he's got a lady scantily clad, but not naked, draped around his shoulders. And then he puts up the phone and gets the shot of some, chick on the floor shaking her ass. It's like, okay, cool, man. That's good life for Paul Pierce. He made $200 million. He's enjoying himself. And then I think one of the issues was, and we've been joking about it all week, I think one of the issues was someone on his comment section, we have a comment section, said, "Where is Rachel Nichols?" He never addressed it. He didn't laugh at it. He didn't say anything. And maybe that was part of the issue because the video got out, people were then talking about Rachel Nichols, and Rachel Nichols was trending on social media for no other reason than one IG commenter mentioned her name, and then a day later he's fired. And then everything I read was well, he's kind of expendable. He wasn't a real good analyst. He made bad picks. What? That's why I get isn't that their job? Barkley's a moron, and he plays a moron every series.
Barkley is not a moron.
Well, I know he's not.
He's a moron at times.
He's playing a moron. But I also think Paul Pierce kind of plays to being this loose cannon and going after people and saying series are over after one game. So I still don't know what happened. I don't know. I will keep using the joke. To me now, there should be a grand effort from the same people who are all upset that Disney canceled Gina Carano, because Disney just canceled Paul Pierce. So I think all those people should be backing Paul Pierce. Where are you? Where are they? Let's make the push to get Paul back in.
Are they backing him?
No one said a goddamn thing. Of course not. No.
All right. No. So here's the thing, right? Look, life is not black and white. Life is shades of gray. All right. That's a reality. What's his contract say?
It's a good point. There could be a morals clause in there.
Right. Is there a morals clause? Is there a don't bring negative light? I mean, I'll be honest with you. For most talent contracts down on the low end where we live, the contracts are, they kick our ass. There are things that have been said, on network television that, could get us fired, right? We have no juice. We don't have enough power behind it. The guys who make a lot of money, they get suspended for a little while. They hang in there. It's about how much money you got behind you. It's about how much money the company can make off you. If Paul Pierce has a ton of sponsors that love him, Charles Barkley can get away with more. Who told the story? Somebody told the story that Charles Barkley said something. I was listening, and it had to do, this was along the lines of the Michael Rappaport versus Kevin Durant deal. And Barkley had a private conversation with somebody, which somebody then took public, which then got Barkley in trouble. and he was going to be speaking at something, and all the media was there, and he went on a profanity-laced tirade and just hammered the media like, listen, blowing up people's personal conversations is not your job. Whether you agree with him or not, that's what he said. He lashed out at him, and then he said, okay, now we're done. You've heard what I have to say. Now let's press forward and let's do this thing. And so my point is Barkley offended some people. He didn't get fired because there's a lot of juice behind him. I mean, the bottom line is there's not enough juice behind Paul Pierce, right, to keep him employed. He was an expendable guy, right? That's number one, right? Employers will take crap if you are a major reason, that the company makes money. If Paul Pierce is not seen as a guy, if in their studies that no one's really turning on the broadcast for Paul Pierce, then Paul Pierce is expendable. That's one thing, right? So had he been, you can see it with some of the news people that, get fired for a little bit and then they're back 6 months later or whatever. If you got the money behind you, then you'll stay in the job. I will say this. If what he was doing brought in another ESPN personality's name into being discussed, into trending nationally in a negative light, if it made her uncomfortable, then you potentially violated what are standard clauses in contracts. And if you've got, in this day and age, if you've put yourself in a situation where you've made a fellow employee feel uncomfortable, then you're going to be in trouble. And I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, listen, so what's your point, Steve? Is it Paul Pierce should have a job right now? You should be able to do whatever you want? Or are you just stirring the shit here?
I'm joking. I'm just talking about every time someone gets in trouble. Select times when people get in trouble, the word cancel is thrown out there. And I think it's interesting when we use the word canceled and when we don't use the word canceled. So
I think that's
if you're gonna have someone's back for being fired by a media organization, then have just about everyone's back. Don't just pick and choose those who align with your beliefs.
Right. I agree. If you don't believe blunts and a couple of gals at the house is not your moral code, it's the guy's in his own home. I would assume you believe in.
I'll give you the better example. Jeremy Roenick got fired from NBC, and it went beyond what Pierce did, because all Pierce had happened was Rachel Nichols got mentioned in his chat room. He never addressed it. Jeremy Roenick, who is friends with Catherine Tappan, one of the leads on NHL on NBC, and vacations with her, went on, Spittin' Chicklets, which is one of the hockey podcasts on Barstool, and openly talked about, hey, we've mentioned, like, hey, it would be great to have a threesome. Like, we're multiple couples. And that blew up. He got fired, but a lot of people had his back. They were like, whoa, what's the big deal? They're friends. So to me, they're very similar situations. Like, there were people offended. There's a fellow broadcaster, a female, who got into the conversation, much more so because Roenick actually mentioned her. And there were a lot of people who had Roenick's back. So I don't know. I just think it's we see how hypocritical is what people choose and don't choose to back up. So,
and I agree. I think that's fair. And I think everybody backs their side, right? Everyone's got a predetermined position and they find a reason, because our culture has told us that whatever you want to be true, whatever you want to be right is right. And you can just say whatever you want to back it up. You don't need facts. Facts don't matter anymore. Truth doesn't matter anymore.
Throw us some names in the audience who on ESPN could have got away with this. I mean, I think there's a really easy one to get mentioned right away. The guy who's making $10 million a year can do whatever he wants because he earned.
Who? I don't know who's making 10.
Stephen A. Smith. If Stephen A. Smith was in a video, I mean, he might have to apologize, but if he was in a video with a couple of strippers and smoking a blunt, he's not getting fired.
So here's what I can't figure out. They don't generate enough of a rating on any of those shows to where I can justify that. I mean, who's watching those shows?
They must have ad dollars.
Not based upon the ratings.
Yeah, this one's a good name. I don't know what would happen with Berman today. I mean, we saw him on old videos, basically, sexually harassing a lady, making a run at her, being all kind of creepy, squirming around her. So I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't survive today. But back in the day, yeah, he survived. Yeah, I agree with CJ Cards fan. Stephen A is untouchable.
Is he really? I don't.
Yeah.
I have
SVP.
nothing against the man.
Yeah.
But he is like almost an auto change for me.
Okay. But I also don't think you're the audience. I don't think you're the low hanging fruit audience. You know.
That could be.
I'm not saying people that like Stephen A are stupid, but they might be casuals and hey, they just want something to bounce off someone else at the proverbial water cooler. I don't think we have a water cooler right now because people can't really gather. But
if he makes $10 million, what does Scott Van Pelt make?
Probably 2.
Really?
Yeah. By the way, like AJ, I love your comments, but all this ESPN stuff, it's a shell of itself. It is. Stephen A is making $10 million. They've got multiple personalities making over $500,000 a year, like dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens. They're not. How much did they just pay ESPN and ABC and Disney to grab the NFL back? How can you be a shell of yourself if you're shelling out whatever it was for a year? Is it $2 billion a year? $3 billion a year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the network still struggles with what is daytime programming.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then they regurgitate. There's only a handful of shows that regurgitate across their 4 networks. They need their 4 networks and the streaming to carry all the games, which is really where they get their viewership, the pre-game and post-game, which SportsCenter is largely basically like a post-game. That's where all their viewership comes from. So the daytime programming is simply filler to keep the channel on as opposed to putting the old school for the old farts out there, color bars that we used to see at about 2 a.m. when the channel would just go off and they would broadcast color bars. Like, they don't do that anymore on television. They program all 24 hours, but for the most part, ESPN can go off. ESPN is like background TV in restaurants and bars during the day. Like, if they get a rating, because like they're on, but nobody's got the volume up. And I'm a big defender of ESPN, but while we're on it,
yeah.
And I do think Mike Greenberg has a lot of talent. I always told you I thought he was the talented guy out of Mike and Mike, right? I think he's a talented guy. So let me say that first of all, and I think his show has potential. It's got enough resources. Like, if ESPN's a shell of itself, and then how do you have 20 different guys on a 2-hour show every single day if you're a shell? I mean,
they're all getting paid. They're all on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, like, this room, our room here, sort of reflects the old guy deal where some people haven't really progressed in terms of absorbing news and sports in different ways. There are lots of different ways now where people who are younger than us take in sports, and it still makes ESPN very viable.
Yeah, they're digital platforms. There's a ton of money for them on their digital platforms, absolutely. But here's what I was going to say. Like, I just came through the college basketball. I get it if you like baseball's a grind to play it, and it's a grind to follow it. So I get it, but like the NCAA tournament's going on. Is it because CBS has it that ESPN doesn't want to promote it? I mean, I have it on like for my day. I've got some kind of sports network on all day. Right? It's the background of what I'm doing. And I cannot take one more conversation about the 5 fucking quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round of this NFL draft. Now, maybe I would have been drooling over that if Patrick Mahomes wasn't the quarterback of the team that I cover. Like, maybe 5 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, God, which guy is this? My team going to trade up? I got to know. Let's talk some more about that. I cannot handle any more conversation about, like, Dak Prescott. In season, it was about Dak Prescott's contract. I'm like, you have actual games going on. You have strategies being played out. You have matchups to break down. And it was Dak Prescott's contract every single day. Like, I will back this statement up. If you want to say that if the point is of the ESPN's a shell of itself is that they no longer actually turn over real news anymore, that they no longer dig in and they've just become that surface, 100 miles wide, an inch deep, I'll buy that. I think there's a place for them to go a little bit deeper. I think there's some pockets where they do, but like I've been really disappointed, I'll be honest with you, really frustrated with the Get Up show because I think it has possibilities. Like I like Jalen Rose, right? When Jalen Rose is on, I'm entertained by Jalen Rose. Why, you don't like Rose?
I don't like Jalen Rose. I wasn't laughing at that. I just saw someone say that they hate that ESPN is going to be covering the NHL now. So I think it's going to save the league. I wouldn't, if you don't like the coverage and the way they do it, which is, I don't think, are they going to be able to do like just surface stuff in the NHL? I think they're going to have to deep dive. I think that's going to be their audience. I I don't think the NHL is big enough, and I don't think they can make it big enough.
Why did they get the NHL?
They just signed up. Yeah, the NHL just re-signed with ESPN finally, and now I think they're back in the sports realm.
Are they on multiple league? Are they going to be on multiple channels or just all on ESPN?
Multiple channels. I think a lot of it is going to be on Plus. They're trying to build up Plus more.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what was going to happen is, I got to look because I know it's twofold. They're covering it and someone else is covering it, but and I'm not sure if NBC is going bye-bye. I know, yeah, there it is. NBC is doing it too. I thought NBC's plan of putting a crap ton of the NHL on the Peacock. I was like, that's a disaster. I mean, I think people are getting to a point that it's not a disaster for hardcore hockey fans, but for casual hockey fans, if you just can't flip around to the main ESPN channels and a little bit of Plus and get NHL, there's no value in having it on Peacock, another pay platform.
Listen, at some point,
Peacock does have soccer though, and again, this is me, the old guy, and not a soccer fan. So maybe there's enough value in soccer that soccer.
They don't even have all the soccer either. Paramount has it because I'm looking at Paramount and I'm looking at Peacock to get it because the Champions League. I almost bought Paramount today, the 7-day trial to watch the Chelsea match today, and I was going. I'm like, what else is there? I like Star Trek, right? So I'm like, the Star Trek stuff, $6 a month. Is this going to be worth it? I have everything under the sun, it seems like right now, but I think ultimately we're going to end up a la carte, pure stream. Right. The cable providers become just pipelines. They own the pipelines to get the information to you, and everything is streamed. I mean, I have DirecTV because they dropped Trow when I said I was dropping, and they dropped the price way down, and so it was going to be the same as what it was going to take. The sports are what's doing it because I stayed with DirecTV because I was going to have to get two different streaming services to get NFL Network and to get Royals baseball. And then one of the streams that had Royals baseball doesn't have it now. We've got the same thing going on in Kansas City with Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports Network, which has become Bally Sports, which apparently wasn't even showing up on the systems it was supposed to show up on. Right. And so now people are pissed that the Royals games and the sporting games aren't going to be on. And so eventually you're going to have to chase it. Like the a la carte is not going to save us money. The ones that put quality. I mean, look at Netflix. What did we start with Netflix? Like $4 a month? And now we're all paying like $17, $18.
The deal, if you want to hear all about the deal, 25 regular season games on ESPN or ABC, early round playoff series, one conference final each year, 4 Stanley Cup finals out of this next 7 years, more than 1,000 games per season streaming on ESPN Plus, and Hulu will be home to another 75 ESPN produced exclusive telecasts per season. So
wait a minute, more than 1,000 games a year on ESPN Plus,
which means that you'll be able to. The NHL TV package is actually moving to ESPN Plus.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Then that means that package is gone. So the center ice package is gone.
Right. And it's going to be ESPN Plus, just like UFC. And my guess is, I will tell you, the one thing I really do like about ESPN that other sites do not provide, ESPN archives everything. So if you miss a game and you don't DVR it, you can actually go back and it's basically a built-in DVR. So I love that. Like for college basketball, in our case out here, the Mountain West Conference is bounced around from channel to channel to channel, and they're still not really with ESPN. And CBS Sportsnet and Fox don't really have an archive system. So, if you want to go back and watch games and you didn't DVR it, you're SOL because they're not going to replay it often.
Yeah, Doug's right. The one streaming platform plus internet equals price of cable. I mean, they drop everything that DirecTV's dropped. I'm paying to other people now. Like I'm no money ahead. I mean, 100%. Absolutely. But if you give me quality content, then I'm okay with it. So, all right. Trust me, I'm a moron for not knowing Spanish. I wish I'd, taken Spanish and known that. That's one of my really my only true regret I have in life is not learning Spanish. But I do think when you say NBC Sports Network's going away, which I don't know what I watch on that, to be honest with you, other than hockey. But is it going away or are they just moving it over to Peacock as a streaming?
They're moving it to Peacock.
Okay. They're not going to pay DirecTV or they think they can get just as much money making it on Peacock as opposed to, DirecTV.
Middleman is out, straight to the consumer. So we'll see how it works out.
Because I think if you're going to be in the sports game, there should be multiple sports channels. Like ESPN's not a shell of itself until NBC, Fox and CBS sports networks are carrying big time games. Until they're carrying big time games, they're not a shell.
All right, so we got a lot on college basketball tonight. So let's sort of wrap Gonzaga and Baylor and look forward.
Biggest takeaway you had from Gonzaga and Baylor?
Good night for Baylor. Not a matchup that Gonzaga couldn't win if they met again.
7-game series. Who wins what? By what?
4-3 Gonzaga.
No.
Sorry, 4-3 Baylor since they have a 1 lead. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there's adjustments made. Timmy finds a way to get closer to the basket. You play Baylor's aggression by their big guys against them, and they got to calm down, or they're gonna series has ebb and flows too with officials. Jalen Suggs doesn't get in foul trouble early on. You got to think about it like an NBA series and how the referees.
I hear you.
They're very much in a series. They have strengths that they couldn't take advantage of. I also thought they doubled Suggs a lot. I think you make adjustments so that Suggs isn't getting as easily doubled. As I watched the game,
I disagree that Suggs was doubled.
The only 10-year veteran and potential superstar on the floor was Suggs. Suggs in the rest of the series is unstoppable. He could get to his left and to the rim anytime he wanted.
But no one else could do anything. And you talk about adjustments, they would adjust against that. Timmy, they had the fouls to throw. Everyone's like, how are they going to stop Timmy? They destroyed Timmy. Okay, destroyed him. Kispert lost $10 million because Kispert is not a lottery pick. Okay. No. He's slow of foot. Gonzaga looks slow, small. Defensively, they could not stay with Baylor. I disagree with you. I'd put the over-under on the series at 5.5. Baylor would either win it in 5 or they'd win it in 6.
They play a game tomorrow or Saturday. What's the line?
I think the line is closer than people think, right? Like people say, oh, Baylor by 8. No, it's probably Baylor because there's so much data. Look, so much of the line is driven by the data, and like Gonzaga still comes out being the Ken Pom #1 team and 3 points better than Baylor. So a lot of that would come around, Gonzaga by 2.5. I know is where you're thinking, but the eye test is real. And I disagree with you about the 10-year vet part. I think the point guard for Baylor, Davion Mitchell is a 10-year player as well.
He's a good guy off the bench. I don't know if he'll ever be like 15 points a game. I think Suggs is a borderline all-star.
Who is the best athlete on the floor, Steve?
Suggs.
I think Mitchell.
Suggs is a guy who would be an NFL prospect if he had gone to play college football.
I think Davion Mitchell would be a starting corner in the NFL.
Maybe.
And a good one. I disagree with you. I don't think that they were doubling on Suggs. I think when Suggs dribbled over, they were easily handling everybody else, and so they would help where they needed to help. But he got 22, by the way, points. Listen, what I saw last night is the two-pointer's dead. Okay, not that no one will score 2 points, but they will score 2 points based upon the fact that the 3 opens everything up. I think Mitchell's more than that. I disagree.
This guy is a 8-year vet in the Turkish league.
Yeah.
So, which is, hey, you know what? That's good money. Don't work.
And that's a good player in college.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if there's 5 guys on each side who are going to play pro basketball somewhere, those are really good teams. So, I think it's closer. We were told today by one of the Westgate bosses, John Murray, who's on with us. He said another game would be a pick'em. He thought.
Okay.
So
I would take Baylor. I would take Baylor.
I think a lot of people would based on what we saw.
Yeah, but I don't think it's just based on that game, right? I think it's based on Gonzaga had questions they needed to answer. The West Coast Conference is weak competition. There's no way around it. Like if Gonzaga got to play the game in December and Baylor smoked them like this, and then they came back and they won every other game, and now they're getting ready to play, and they were catching points, I might like Gonzaga because they had seen what they had to handle.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, Mark Few got pantsed. Okay, in a 7-game series, he has a chance to make adjustments. He even said after the game, "I wish we'd had more time to prepare," which is basically Scott Drew kicked my ass.
Right.
Okay, but they destroyed Timmy. They said, we've got the fouls to give, and we're not worried about anybody else beating our guys. And really, Suggs got his, and that's it. And by the way, when they're winning, Suggs is not leading them in scoring. That's not a good thing when he's leading them in scoring. It's all gone to shit in the handbasket when that has to happen. They can't shoot threes. I'm no way.
All right.
I mean, they Kispert's passing them up. He's afraid to take them even when the game's out of reach and it doesn't even matter. Their inability, and they're not horrible. They're in the 40s at 3-point efficiency. Number one best 2-point efficiency ever. But we saw a Baylor team that was the number one 3-point shooting team this year. Not the greatest ever, just the number one this year. And they took their doors off. I understand you can't read too much into one game, but there was never at any moment where Gonzaga answered the bell. Not at any moment.
No, they hit a wall every time they got to 9 or 10. There'd be a 6-point run. It was impressive. It was a good win by Baylor. So, but I'm still not buying that there's a giant gap between the two teams. So, and I'm also not buying. People were just ridiculous because they're trying to cope with the fact that we had heard about Gonzaga unbeaten and potentially all-time great team, and it's like, oh, Baylor beat that team? They must be an all-time great team. Calm down. They're a very good college team. They may be a top 15 team of this century.
Okay.
They're not Duke 9. I'm sorry. I was ripping Duke on the air last week. They're not 90 UNLV. They're not 2015 Kentucky. They're not an all-time great team. They're a really good college team that matches up well with the style of play right now. 3 guards, it's where it's at. A couple of power bigs, 2 or 3 power bigs to defend. You're a good college basketball team.
Their bigs are so much more athletic than Timmy that it's not even fun.
More athletic. Yeah.
Significantly, not even close. Stronger, faster, quicker, everything. Right? Now, Timmy's a more skilled player, but we saw that was neutralized by athletes. Listen, nobody – I remember, who was talking about Donovan Mitchell, being one of the top guards when he came out of Louisville. Everybody was like, well, why is this guy going this high? I think there's some of that – I'm not saying he's going to be Donovan Mitchell, but Davion Mitchell is going to be better than people realize. No one watched Baylor all year for the most part on a national level. Right? Gonzaga was the team that everybody was talking about. And his explosiveness, he is out of this world. And his on-ball defense is about as good as I think we've ever seen in college basketball.
I was just going to look up. I wonder where he is right now. I'm sure that helped his stock for, mock draft sites. It doesn't mean that they're accurate. What would you guess? Would he be a first-round pick in the 20s?
I think he'll move. I think he was in the top 20 coming into the tournament. And I think the tournament pushed him into the top 15, and maybe he makes his way to the top 10. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it. I'll have to see what it is. I will say this. If Corey Kispert, people had in the top 10, which I have questioned all year, I'm like, listen, good player, like him, but he's Doug McDermott light. And you see what Doug McDermott, a 10-year NBA guy, he starts for bad teams and he comes off the bench for good teams. And by the way, Kispert doesn't shoot as well as McDermott did. McDermott was a lights-out, player of the year candidate and maybe even won some of those awards. Kispert's not that good.
Yeah, I'm not here to argue with you about Kispert. I didn't understand why he was. I mean, I'm looking at one mock draft now that obviously has not been updated, and he's the 9th pick. This site has Davion Mitchell as the 15th, Jared Butler 37, Joel Ayayi 27.
Where did that Mitchell? I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
He's 15th. Yeah, he's in the top 20. 15th to Boston.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because he's a better shot maker than Marcus Smart. He's quicker. I'm much more bullish on Davion Mitchell than apparently anyone in this room.
I think other people are bullish on him.
No, not in this room.
Well, with the two of us, but there's commenters here blowing up Baylor. They like him.
I know. I'm talking specifically Davion Mitchell.
Who agrees with 15th in the draft?
I do. I think he'll go there or earlier.
It could happen. It was very interesting. We talked about a tweet on Monday night. Stuart Mandel, who works for The Athletic now, he's a college football guy. And I thought I saw a lot of this narrative. Again, I don't think people follow college basketball enough and know what's been going on the last 20 years. But he said, congrats to Mark Few. Kind of feel bad for him. Who knows when he'll be in this position again to win a national title.
Yeah, because it's been he hasn't even been close forever, right? What was it, 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
He's made the final in 2 of 4 years.
He lost by a point or something?
And they are the betting favorite at 5-1 to win the title next year. So
I will say this. Here's what I think is interesting moving forward. How do these teams handle – and Gonzaga had already gotten this kiss because they were – just off the strength of this season, off previous recruiting. I mean, you start when kids are juniors. They were already going to land a top 5 class, right? They've got a couple of top 10 kids, assuming they get the 7-1 kid, the number 1 kid, and add him to this mix. And if Timmy stays, which he should, and they add the class they're going to add, and a Yaya stays, then they're definitively the number 1 team in the country, right? I just talked to Gary Parrish today, and he said, listen, he's not putting him number 1 because he doesn't want to deal with all the social media crap that comes with putting him number 1. So he goes, so fine, UCLA number 1, they're number 2. Alabama number 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alabama number 3, and he said, if a bunch of the guys from UCLA and Gonzaga leave, then Alabama's got a decent chance to be number 1 next year. Although I think Jones may go before it's all said and done. But so here's what I think is interesting. Like 10 years from now, this is what I've asked. I always like to say, okay, let's look over the horizon. Everyone always thinks we're at the finish line. Wherever we are is the end. And like all these teams are just going to be where they are. Is Mark Few, there's not a comp because UNLV is the obvious comp, but they reached the summit and they quickly plummeted. Right now, there were other factors outside. Tarkanian was suing the NCAA for years and years and years and wearing down. He was older. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Mark Few's about the same age. I think he's got it up and running and kids really like playing for him. I think he's going to lose, from what I understand, as top assistants, the lead guy for Arizona, right?
Possibly.
One of them.
He's on the initial list that, they leaked out there of the top 5 guys.
Yeah. So I mean, that would hurt, but I think Mark Few's the juice of that program. But can you adjust to when the one and dones will say yes? Right? They have one and done, which is always the perfect spot. Carmelo Anthony was the one and done on that team. Kentucky had more than one and done. It was Kid Gilchrist was on that 12 team. Is that who was the wing player that was? It was Kid Gilchrist, wasn't it? Well, right. Along with Anthony Davis on the 2012 championship team. Anthony Davis was a real one and done. Kid Gilchrist was mistakenly tabbed as a one and done. He wasn't. As we know now, shooting is important, and he still can't, right? But so I think right now, what is going to be interesting to watch is when you get to that, I can get the one and done kid level. Kentucky hasn't won one since 12, although they played for it once and had an undefeated team going into the semis. So 2 more times they were clearly more than good enough. The one time they played for it, they were actually an 8 seed playing UConn since that. But Calipari hasn't won it again. Coach K got his one and done championship, and he hasn't played for it again. Now they lost in the Sweet 16, I think, with the 3 guys that were top 5 a couple of years ago. It's different. It's harder to put that team together. And I think I would say that I expect Mark Few and Gonzaga to be better here moving forward in the short term, at least, because I expect them. I know they've got great talent coming in, but Scott Drew seems to have found exactly the level of kid he wants to go get. And if he can now supplement in just one and done here and there, that rounds out this group and makes it better, I think it'll be great. But let's also take a moment to say this. 10 years from now, are we going to look at this and say, yeah, Scott Drew, you know what he did? He cashed on his one opportunity. I guess Scott Drew going to be remembered as Jim Boeheim. And Boeheim actually had multiple opportunities, but like Diet Boeheim. Is he going to be PJ Carlesimo who won the game instead of losing to Michigan in overtime? Is he going to be, who are some of the other coaches that got to the finals once? Rick Majerus. He got there and he played a tough one with his Utah team and he lost. Is that what Scott Drew is going to be? Because I think you can make a case. Now that Texas has taken their head out of their ass and gone and gotten the best guy, not at a blue blood program, they're building their facilities finally, right? And they've not only hired Beer, but they've given him a mountain of cash to go hire a huge, group of assistant coaches. And then Kansas has been under a cloud from the NCAA for 2 years. That is absolutely helpful. I know Kansas has lost. There's 1 or 2 kids on that Baylor list, and there's a kid that's going to Baylor next year from Wichita that I don't think they get. So Drew is taking advantage of what's going on. When Iowa goes to the Rose Bowl, Urban Meyer is not at Ohio State. Okay? When, those second-level schools make it happen at the highest level, that's usually because the really big boys are tripping up. And that was happening for Baylor, and that was happening for Gonzaga as well. Duke, North Carolina, Michigan State, Kentucky, all tripping up. I mean, I think there is. Listen, you put yourself in position to be good enough to win it for 20 years, and one of those 20 years, it all breaks right, and you have your opportunity, and you're standing there in that game, and you better grab it when you're in that game. Mark Few has clearly been beyond that, but for Scott Drew, who I think did a brilliant job and I think is definitively the better team, I think there's a lot of he's been pretty good. He's gotten even better. He's clearly changed what he does, his style of play, and I think he's gotten way more analytics in what he does. He shoots the three. He crashes the glass. He's about shot volume. It's one of the things they really preach there. And so, but I do think it's quite possible that he's at best the third best team in the Big 12 for the next 20 years. Has a statue outside, but a lot of things broke right for both these two teams to be playing in the championship game.
I think they're going to continue to break right because I think there's a changing of the guard here, and we started to see it this year. I think over the next 4 or 5 years, some of the greats of college basketball coaching are going bye-bye, and there are going to be 5 or 6 of those major programs that will be maybe they'll be really good, or maybe they'll suffer and be mediocre, and they can't find the right guy through like 2 and 3 coaches. I don't know what Kentucky will be without Calipari. I think Duke is going to go with a Duke guy. I don't love a lot of the Duke guys who could.
Oh, I agree.
Be the next guy for Coach K. I don't know if Hubert. We were talking about Indiana 2 weeks ago. If I'm North Carolina, the family thing is fine. Hubert Davis may be a good coach. Go get me Jay Wright. Call Chris Beard the day he call Chris Beard the day he commits to Texas and go, you know what? You have no loyalty. We're going to take advantage of that. Now we're getting you. Quit on Texas. Right?
Well, he is an alum.
Go get Scott Drew. Go get Mark Few. Make a run at the best guy. But Duke, Michigan State, eventually Syracuse, Kansas could happen any day now, right? Could happen next year.
No, he just signed a lifetime contract. Bill Self's not going anywhere.
Okay.
With provisions in the contract of if however long he's got to sit, he gets 50% of his pay.
And he's gonna tough it out.
Yes, I think he will absolutely see it to the other side. Now, listen, if he leaves, he goes to the NBA. The buyout for the NBA is only $2 million. So right. The lifetime contract part, if there's an itch to scratch, it's the NBA, and that's the only place he'll go. I think this finalized. He's got a Kansas guy and a guy that was a young kid in the department when he first got there. A kid who recognizes, and I listened to his press conference today, he said, he's thrilled he didn't have to work on the Bill Self extension. That's what needed to be done, and it got done, and it's just work that he doesn't have to do. And no, Kansas recognizes, like, what are you going to do, fire Bill Self? Like, so mistakes may have been made, right? I'm not going to – that's a debate. If you're a Kansas fan, they did nothing wrong. If you're, in these parts, a K-State or Mizzou fan, they did everything wrong. Bottom line is there's no one better for Kansas than Bill Self, and Kansas knows it, and they did the right thing. And I think got him cheap, $5.4 million compared to what Mike Krzyzewski's making. But I want to go back. Your point about all the old guys that are going to start dropping off, I agree. But whoever the top guys are, I think that they're all smart enough now. Carolina's not, because they Roy, if you're out, you got to go. And I think Roy jerked around because he kissed the court on his last day there, and Travis Hancock at WFNZ came on with us and said, the word around here is he's done. You don't go out and kiss the court. He's never done that before. He's out. So they've known he was going to go. But he sat and he sat and he sat and he made sure that Hubert Davis got the job. That's what I think. I know how Roy works. I've been yelled at on the phone by Roy. I have great respect for him.
Right.
Because he took it up with me, right, and didn't go pissing and moaning to somebody else. So I think he's a man about things. So I really do like Roy. But you're right. They should have. When they knew it, they should have been reaching out to Chris Beard and saying, "Hey, I know Texas is home, but do you want to win championships? You do that here at North Carolina, 100%." But I think they all will do that.
Talk to Jay Wright. Call Billy Donovan. Do a real search. And again, Hubert Davis might work out, but I know I was around, and I know you were around when Dean Smith was like, you know what, we're going to go with my guy. Here's Bill Guthridge.
And he went to 2 Final Fours, though, Steve.
Hey, you're right. And he did do it with Dean Smith's players. But then after that, hey, let's go with one of our guys, Matt Doherty. Disaster. It's not a guarantee that the next guy after a legend continues at the same level. It's all this stuff about, the school recruits itself. It doesn't. I mean, you have an advantage. You've got a built-in legacy. And the competition now is different. You can't keep a roster together because your freshmen and sophomores are like, wait, I'm not playing in 2 years. I'm going somewhere else. It's more difficult now to have continuity and be super dominant. Jesus, the kid, Walker Kessler, he's not a North Carolina legacy kid. He's a Georgia legacy kid. His dad played at Georgia, 7-footer. I mean, he's there with Roy Williams. Hubert Davis gets a job, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to look around. Like, why? You wanted to go to North Carolina, but that's the game you play now. And now and I know we've talked about this a lot, I believe in the transfer portal. A lot of the same stuff is going on with freshmen, right? With freshman recruits. I don't know what it costs. I don't know how much guys go for, but you'll notice like all of a sudden Walker Kessler's available. Well, Gonzaga's in, Kentucky's in. This school's. I mean, it's hard as a coach now, even a blue blood, to keep a freaking roster together and have any chance to grow old.
But don't you think the guys that are going to be successful are the guys that are already good recruiters? It's just you got to recruit a whole squad every year. Missouri is only going to bring 3 guys back from last year's team.
Chris Beard. Does everyone get it like Chris Beard does? Does everyone get it like Eric Musselman does? Does everyone get it? I think like Scott Drew gets it.
Well, you're hitting on some of the guys that I think are the future stars. I think Eric Musselman is looking like he's going to be a future star. I think at Alabama, Nate Oates looks like he's going to be a future star. Scott Drew has been on the front edge of the transfer game all his whole time at Baylor, and so I think he gets it. He'll be in the market for some of the best players. Chris Beard gets it. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. Calipari's gotten on board, but he's gotten on board because he had to because he wasn't getting the freshmen. But I think it'll be interesting to see how Kansas plays it. Bill Self hasn't embraced it, but he's, there are shackles on their recruiting right now.
Yeah, well, it seems like this year he's embracing it because I know there were a lot of mid majors and back of the Power 5 that were like, hey, that Division II kid. What is it, Missouri Southern? They're like, yeah, let's get that guy.
Yeah, but embracing it this year, Steve, when everybody can transfer for free at any time, that's not embracing it. That's self-preservation. Okay. You got thrown in the deep end. You got Bruce Weber's embracing it, and he recruits 8 guys every year because 4 guys transfer out every year, and he keeps trying to just do it through high school guys. And he's had to finally say, well, I need 13 kids, so we got to go get somebody, right? And so I don't think this year's up fair. Let's see where it goes. But as long as the transfer thing's out there, yeah, I think the best recruiters will recruit transfers just like they recruit high school kids. It's not like some guy who sucks in the high school market is going to be the best transfer guy.
There's also a sense of urgency with the old guys, right? Have you seen what's happened in the transfer portal? Duke, down. They haven't worked the transfer portal, but they've worked the high school ranks. Your guy is down, and all of a sudden everyone's like, fucking Syracuse is all over the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. Maryland, Mark Turgeon played that beautifully. Mark Turgeon, I guess, didn't feel like maybe he was getting the backing. He's got the backing now. He got 2 great players in the transfer portal and a 3-year extension. I'm sure he was like, Oklahoma, you want to keep fucking with me here in Maryland? Give me an extension and give me what I need behind the scenes to get players. So he's done it. Mike Woodson just got a really good transfer from Pittsburgh today. Kevin Willard's been playing it right. He's got 2 impact transfers at Seton Hall. So you're seeing like some schools are really like, hey, we're going to get in there and we're getting players because we're not having another down year or just short of our expectations. Screw that.
No, I agree with you, and I understand that the transfer portal is going to be, it's the Wild West right now. Who's going to benefit from it? I mean, Kentucky's already landed the big kid, Culver State, the other kid, the kid who was first team All Big 12 coming into the year, who transferred out at the beginning of the year. They've already landed a bit. He's a double guy that's coming in that's going to help him out on the inside.
Crazy.
I mean, I think the big boys will still be the big boys. But to your point, we are getting to where Calipari and Coach K and maybe Tom Izzo they're gonna fall off. They're gonna come off the board at some point. They're gonna be really good right to the end, though. I don't buy that they're gonna suck going down the stretch. I mean,
who do you worry about the most? Calipari
sucking?
Like not adjusting to these times because he's like, because I have the guy. I mean, of that group.
I've watched Bruce Weber be that guy here, but that's not a big boy. You said Syracuse. I don't put Syracuse.
No, he gets it.
In that group.
He's scooping up freaking portal guys. He's here to go. He's ready. He's still going. He's fired up.
Yeah, but he's dabbled in the transfers. But his recruiting had really suffered. But that's starting to bounce back. I don't know who's getting it done, if it's McNamara or Autry or who, but they're starting to get back into the top 100 with a couple of kids each year. Now they usually transfer out. One of them transfers out every year, right? That's been part of his problem. But I think his team's come together at the end. Why it takes so long, I don't know. But he's a candidate if he's considered a big boy. Who's the guy? It's not Calipari. It's Izzo, would be my opinion.
My worry is Izzo. Yeah, I mean he showed a lot of signs of crack in the last couple of years with the whole kind of I'm frustrated by this and kids these days and like, bro, you gotta the fire and brimstone stuff. You gotta dial it down, man. You gotta adjust.
Nobody wants to be told why they're wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, I said it when we started this earlier. Everyone has their conclusion, and you have to explain to them why they're right. Nobody wants to hear that they're wrong. They don't give a shit what the facts are.
Yeah,
you're the best player ever.
Right.
I'm going to get you to the league. And then when the guy sucks, you just, you know what? You're going to have a hell of a career. It ain't going to be here at Kentucky. It ain't going to be here at Kansas. I'm intrigued by, I said this, and I got some Missouri fan with a red ass, because if you compliment somebody else or you predict good things for your rival, then you must be shitting on them. I believe that whenever the sanctions get handed down to Kansas and they know where the end is, they will take off like a rocket. Like Jim Boeheim, my senior year at Syracuse was 1993. They were out of the tournament. He was in the championship game in 96. He won the championship in 03. I think that Kansas is poised once they come out the other side of this because they will be in a situation where not only are they a blue blood, not only do you go to a place where you get to the NBA, but they will have minutes. And I think whenever the sanctions are over, Kansas will be – you'll see a big jump for Kansas. I don't think sanctions bother any kid. Yeah, unless once they're done, like they were suspended at 2. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, right. Now that said, Arizona is going to lose just about every single player. Because why would you stay around?
Depends on who the coach is. Like, who do you think it's going to be?
I think they're going to go, like you said, the Gonzaga assistant. Tommy Lloyd is one of the leaders, but they have a great list of Arizona guys they can go after. Guys who are working in the NBA. Luke Walton already said, I've got a good job. I'm not leaving. Miles Simon is an assistant.
Yeah, I've heard that name too. But is that a great? That's not a great list. I'm not saying it's a bad list, but those are prospects. A great list is Kansas hiring Bill Self when he's been a 1 seed at Illinois, and he's been doing an Elite 8 at Illinois and an Elite 8 at Tulsa. A great list is Chris Beard's an alum of your school, and he's going to go to Texas.
If you're in a region that has arguably the best program in the country, go get that coach. Go get Mark Few for $10 million a year.
100%. Absolutely.
Now, I don't think Few would leave, and I also think Gonzaga can pay Few $7 or $8 million. So I think they're so well funded, they'll hold on to him. And I wouldn't leave Gonzaga. I've got a lifetime job at Gonzaga, and I've got funding. I've got all I need to recruit and facilities and all that. But you're right. That should be the attitude of Arizona to go and get someone who is awesome. Actually, the CBS Sports story today had Musselman on the list, which would be an interesting choice.
You covered him a lot more there in the Mountain West. I like what I'm seeing out of what's going on in Arkansas. And I think Musselman is going to personally fire Conzo Martin at Missouri because they're going to trump Missouri so bad. And that's supposed to be the new rival to Mizzou now that they're in the SEC. He's an odd cat, but kind of like the way Scott Drew was an odd cat when he first got it, like, constant energy and motion, his squeezing the toothpaste thing out, I think was stupid, but, whatever. When he squeeze Colgate, like, all right, sit down, Grandpa. That was cheesy. But he appeals to kids. And if you can recruit at Nevada, then you can recruit anywhere. I think he and Nate Oates, both of them.
Nate Oates for Arizona?
Yeah.
Hey, you're right. But Arizona should go after every guy we just mentioned, maybe short of Chris Beard because now it's been a week or so, although Chris Beard left UNLV after a week.
Yeah, right.
Arizona should go after every guy we just mentioned from North Carolina.
I think one of the things I'm going to be intrigued by, listen, and I'm not doing this because 4 teams from the Pac-12 got into the Sweet 16, but I do think Pac-12 basketball is coming back. I think if Arizona hires the right guy, I think all boats rise with the tide, and I think the tide is rising with USC, being willing to do what it takes to get whoever Enfield will hire whatever father it takes to get talent, and I don't think they're going away. I don't think UCLA is going away. Mick Cronin's got a 5-star kid coming in. They're going to have another big year, which I think is going to impress all the California talent. So I think there's, I think that will help Arizona, because I think the same thing here. I think Chris Beard at Texas is going to be a beast, and I think Scott Drew is not going to back up the bus, right? I would predict that he does not win another national championship, but that's not a bold prediction. All the math is with me on that. But I do think that how good those two teams are going to be is going to make Kansas even better, and is going to make the other teams in that league even better.
So what happened with Texas with the assistant? They robbed someone from Kansas?
Yeah, they got Jerrance Howard, who is considered Texas is supposed to be his area. He actually played for Bill Self at Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
And he's considered to be a top recruiter. But I asked somebody in the program, they're like, yeah, well, he's really good down in Texas, and he's a good recruiter, and they wanted to give him, he's the guesstimates that I heard was that he's making $300,000 at Kansas, and that maybe he's making $500,000 at Texas. He's clearly getting more money because it's not a move up, right? Unless you say you get out from under having to recruit with sanctions hanging over your head, and you don't know when that's going to go away. So from that standpoint, it gets easier to close the deal with kids. I'm sure Jerrance Howard, like everybody else, wants to be a head coach. I don't see it. I think he is an end-of-your-bench recruiter, and he maybe is the best end-of-your-bench recruiter out there. And so Texas went out and got him. I said, who is he directly responsible for coming to Kansas? And the only name I got was Cliff Levingston.
All right.
Did I screw up a name?
You did, yes.
Who was the Cliff?
The kid from Chicago, because I'm blanking. Cliff Levingston was a veteran forward with the Hawks.
Yeah. Who Cliff? He was
the kid from Chicago. He was a top 5 guy. He was one and done and went to the NBA. And
he wasn't very good. Who was that? Cliff
Alexander.
Cliff Alexander. Thank you. Yeah. Cliff Alexander was the only name they could give me, and I'm like, well, that's the resume. Okay. The guys who deliver are Norm Roberts and Curtis Townsend at Kansas, and they're still there.
Yes.
And we'll see if the sanctions change that.
Curtis has always delivered. He does his job well. But you need guys like that, And here's the thing, and for Arizona fans, as you put it earlier, who have a red ass. Sean Miller knew what he was getting in Booker Richardson. They just didn't manage it well.
Oh yeah,
you got caught. There's 30 programs around the country that could get caught with something like that. You got caught, and the whataboutism, like, what about them? You got caught? You didn't play the game the right way. Your head coach jumped on a phone with someone who was less than reputable and spewed the bull crap. I'm sure you do. Essentially, I love. I'm sure you love the movie too, Casino. When the heat gets so hot from the FBI, they have that whole scene where they're like, it's like 11 cars from garage to garage to garage, and then they're on a bench and they're doing this, and they turn up the stereo. Like, that's college recruiting. You can't hop on a phone as a head coach, him and Will Wade, and say what you were saying. Even if you didn't exactly say it, you can't say it.
Which is one of the interesting things, because what they have on Kansas, and I'm not, I'm a Syracuse guy. I'm not a Kansas guy. What they have on Kansas is circumstantial. Like, does it sound like they're saying, hey, let's get a deal for Zion Williamson? It does, right? But he's not, there's no one saying, we made him a strong ass offer. Like Will Wade is on tape as saying at LSU. And the things that Sean Miller is on tape. There is no Bill Self, let's make him an offer. Go give him, that's not on tape. There's this sounds like he means this.
Right.
Yeah, but what he said was this. And they have no money changing hands. They have these FBI wiretaps, and that have vague innuendos at best, where it's point blank Sean Miller and Will Wade. And nothing that's said is Bill Self on the Kansas side. And that's why Bill Self is going to sue the NCAA, unless the NCAA needs to decide, will they be discredited more by fighting Bill Self for 2 to 15 years the way they did Jerry Tarkanian? Would they be better off just saying, okay, here's a 20-game suspension, sit it out, or maybe all the way to 1 season? I think Bill Self, I haven't talked to him about this, but I'm just guessing if they said, here's a year to go play golf for $2.7 million, right? I think he'd probably go play golf and say, okay, it's not worth it. But if they say you're going to sit for 2 years, I think Bill Self sues. I think it's tied up in court for years. I think it gains him support with the players because you can go pitch, hey, name, likeness, image. The NCAA is bullshit. I'm fighting them. I'll fight for your ability to get you what you deserve. I think it'll make him a hero. And the NCAA's got to decide what they want to do, right?
Tark 2, fight the power.
Yeah, I'll say this.
And by the way, here's the difference, and I didn't get to say this when you said earlier. I saw the lifetime contract thing, and I was like, well, that's a message. Kansas is saying, you know what? Hey, maybe we did something wrong, but we believe in the guy. We'll get past this, and we like him enough. We're going to stick with him. And that's UNLV didn't do that because Tark got so big, he got bigger than the school, that the president at the time was a complete asshole and was glad to freaking, then knife him and take him down, and cooperate with the NCAA to get rid of the guy. And as you say all the time, if there ever was a one coach program, it was UNLV. And if you're a dick at the time at UNLV and you're trying to take down Tark, give me a break. You're never going to become, if the design was like, basketball is important, but we want to be an institution of higher learning. We're worried about that reputation. Get out of here.
Yeah. Sam Mellinger, columnist of the Kansas City Star, said a day or two ago on our station, he said, I texted this to somebody in the Kansas athletic department. He goes, I don't think they liked it because they didn't text back. But he said, man, just when I think you're all out of fingers to give to the NCAA, you find a way to fly another one. And I thought that was like, Sam is a columnist for a reason. He's good with words. And I thought that was great. And listen, whether it's bringing in Snoop Dogg to throw cash around.
How awesome was that?
I mean,
in the middle of all of it, they're like, yep. What are you going to do? Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you, someone who was it, Doug, I think was saying earlier, no, actually one of your, I don't know whose guy it is, and we don't have guys, but someone said earlier on Scott Drew, S. Blake Welch said that Drew will win at least 2 more. I had suggested to you like a friendly discussion wager, possibly,
right,
on who wins. If either coach wins a national title, will it be Few or Drew first? From here, Drew's got his, but will he win a second before Few wins a first?
I would put my money on Few because I think it's the talent is up and running. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see, can you still build that team chemistry?
Yeah.
Let's see. Jay Wright it seems to be, still able to find that guy that's number 47, number 7. He got Lester Earl's kid, and stole him away from KU when he went to high school at Bishop Miege. And then did his last year at, I don't know, one of IMG or one of the academy things, but he was from here in town, and they got him away. Who's the 6'9" kid from Earl Robinson Earl, yeah. He seems to get like, I'll get the one guy, right? That's 1 or 2 and done. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see, can Few and Drew manage that? Can all of them find a way to build a roster? Like, Billy Donlin here, who coaches UMKC, has a phrase. He says, are we collecting instruments or are we building an orchestra? Right? And I think there's something to it. It's not as easy as that because recruiting is not just going to a music store and saying, I need a bass and I need this. It's fishing. You put your line in and maybe a trombone comes out, maybe another trombone comes out, maybe another trombone comes out, and a tambourine. Now, go play Mozart. Well, shit. We got some problems here. Right? You got to try to mold that and make it work. Like it's a great phrase. I love it. We collecting instruments or building an orchestra here, but there's a lot of analogies that go into recruiting. Recruiting is a wild thing, and getting a team and trying to put it together and find out what your team does well. The best guy, Bob Huggins, is tremendous at like, okay, now we're going to press because shit, we can't score. But I do think there's some things. I think one of the takeaways, I do think it's been proven that Scott Drew reads the analytics. Like shot volume. John Gassaway has preached that for a while at ESPN. And I had John on 2 days ago. And I said, I feel vindicated because I always had Scott Drew high on my Big 12 coach rankings. And everybody be like, he sucks. He can't do shit with the talent. everybody wanted to bomb him. He was a very unpopular guy. I think a lot of the coaches didn't like. I think he had some kind of negative recruiting he did that pissed people off early in his time at the Big 12. But I said, look, the guy knows what he's doing. And guess what he said? I'm his champion. He said, because he gets it. He goes, do you know how many coaches have told me when I say shot volume, crash the glass, make sure you offensive rebound? They're like, oh, we got to get back. We don't want to give up buckets in transition. He goes, did Baylor give up buckets in transition? They're up against one of the best fast break teams out there. They crashed the glass like it's nobody's business. Vitale had 8 offensive boards.
You can't get the ball.
He had more offensive boards than Timmy had made shots.
You're going to run, but you can't protect the defensive board. So guess what? You can't run.
Yeah. So I mean, they you know, I think he gets that. He embraced the 3. He embraced the guards because he had been all about bigs. All his guys that he was sending to the league were all 6'10", 6'11", 7'2". He was sending all these big guys, and he went, you know, this isn't working. I'm going to do this now. And he embraced the 3s, and he embraced crashing the glass, and he embraces the athletes, and I think he embraces player development. I think guys get better at Baylor. You know, and I think there are a lot of programs, guys, they're the same guy. They only get better because other guys graduated in front of them. You know, I think guys get better at Baylor.
Shall I say that I think Mark Few will evolve? He's a smart guy. He'll learn his lesson that he can't have guys who can't create their own shot and especially can't defend. And the Corey Kisperts, not just because he's a white, but the Corey Kisperts that he's built the program around will not be the building blocks anymore. And I think he'll lean on the transfer portal more, and he'll be recruiting a different type of player on the wing.
He's been good enough to win it, maybe 4 times? Like I always say, do you want to win championships? Get to the final game a lot. You want to go to the final game? Go to the Final Four a lot. You want to go to the Final Four a lot? Go to the Elite 8 a lot.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it is. It's shot volume, opportunity volume is what gets you championships. Coach K is 5-4 in the championship game. He's been there 9 times. How do you want to win 5 championships? Go 9 times.
Amazing.
Like that's how it works.
Yep.
And you know, only Jim Calhoun was 3-0 in the championship game, and I think he was, 6-1 in the Final Four. He lost 1 semi, and otherwise he made 4 Final Fours and won the championship 3 times. I'm pretty sure it was Calhoun. That's the exception. Most of them go to the Final Four. You know, Roy Williams won 3 championships. He went to the Final Four 9 times.
S. Blake, are you talking about Baylor or Few? Because in the case of Few, he does have two top 75 guys who for some reason he didn't play. He stopped playing, and one of them is actually here from here in Vegas, a kid named Julian Strother, who's a 6'7" wing, who probably will be. Well, I think he'll be the replacement for Kispert, but it would not surprise me if Few is like, okay, transfer portal, I'm going to grab that wing. Sorry, Julian, you've got 3 years left as a sophomore of eligibility. You still need time. We're getting a guy who's ready now.
I did a breakdown of the recruiting rankings of Baylor and Gonzaga earlier in the year. And with the exception of Suggs, the highest graded guy, which one has the Florida transfer? Gonzaga, right? Has a transfer.
Yeah, Nembhard. Yep.
He was 20. Nembhard was 25. That's the second highest guy after Suggs on either one of these teams, and he's a transfer kid.
Right.
Right. Baylor, they have plenty of guys in the 80s and 90s, you know, even a 60-something here and there. If you go look at where these kids were graded, it's good talent. It's just not one-and-done talent. And that's
You're talking Gonzaga or Baylor?
Both Gonzaga and Baylor. They look very similar. Both have transfers, and both have guys in that 60 to 70 range. Gonzaga's got one kid that was a transfer from one of the small schools that wasn't even ranked. You go look. I actually thought Timmy was top 50, but he may have been just outside of the top 50. He was a highly recruited dude who turned down much of the Big 12 in the SEC. Timmy was 43. Okay.
Yeah.
Anton Suggs is the only one and done guy.
Yeah.
And if Timmy was 43, and what's he, a junior?
He is a junior. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say 43 was generous.
I'm looking back at his schools. It was a big time recruit. I remember seeing it. I'm like, okay, now they're starting to recruit at a different level if they're getting top 50 guys.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's something to be said for the chemistry of veterans.
Yeah.
And you know, winning with all one and dones is hard. And because the Kentucky team that's heralded as the one and done team in 2012, if you go back and look, I think it was freshman, sophomore, junior, and maybe a senior in there too.
What else we got to hit tonight? Because we had a good list. I think that was most of the college basketball. Oh, you know what? I want you sent over something interesting. I have no idea what this is or what prompted it. You said, I'm interested in college press conferences that allow students to ask questions. What happened?
So today we had the Travis Goff introductory press conference as the new athletic director at Kansas. And, I'm sitting there. I couldn't go up to it, so I'm just listening to it. So I couldn't ask any questions in it. And so at one point I tweeted out, man, I hope Goff brought a DeMarini bat to this press conference because the softballs they're lobbing at him need to be hit. And, I was like, and like 2 or 3 of the questions were like students who work for like the UDK, the University Daily Kansan or something Daily Kansan or something, which is the campus paper there. You were a journalism major. I'm a journalism major. What was your favorite class? I'm like, listen, I'm all for the college experience and getting kids because they can't go up and ask Andy Reid questions. They're not allowed on those. So you want to get them the experience. But there's a time and place, and I don't know that it's the introductory press conference for an athletic director, particularly one that should be fielding questions about an NCAA investigation and the fact that they're looking for their 5th football coach in 11 years and haven't pissed a drop in that sport. And so, of course, some Kansas, well, could a guy settle in before you start grilling them with questions?
No,
really?
why?
Because like, if it's your rival, you want their ass, hold their feet to the fire. Go get them, right? And so I was talking with a guy, maybe around the program or something, and I said, listen. And I go, here's the deal. And they're like, I totally agree. Like, that was kind of, but it happens everywhere, right? I'm not crapping on Kansas. It happens. Kansas has good people in their athletic department. I have no rub with Kansas whatsoever, right? They're good people to deal with. Bill Self's got a guy who basically runs interference. I have no ill will towards him because I know what he's doing. Bill Self, aw shucks, and it's nice to everybody. Tells everybody he'll do everything, and then goes and tells this guy, F no, I'm not doing that. That shit, no way. Tell him I'm busy. Tell him something came up, whatever, right? I get it. I understand how it works, right? But I had this. I said, listen, there was a time, I told him the story. I said, when Roy Williams was headed out the door, we knew he was going to North Carolina. And Al Bull, the athletic director at the time, was going to get fired because he tangled with Roy Williams. And we even knew that Bill Self was probably going to be the next guy. And this is the press conference before the 2003 NCAA tournament started, where Kansas went to the championship game and lost to Syracuse. And then Roy said, I could give a shit about North Carolina right now. And then 3 days later was in North Carolina as the new coach. So this is the last press conference in Lawrence. I drive up to it before he's going to go. And so everything is about Al Bull. Is he going to get fired? Roy leaving, all this. And I stood up at the front of the auditorium where they had it, and I said, listen, anybody writing features or anybody in this room who wants to sit and ask a question about, didn't Aaron Miles play great yesterday, coach? Or how great is it to be going back to the tournament? I go, save that shit. There are 2 subjects that are going to be discussed here. All right? We're going to talk about
you actually did this to the group?
Yeah, I said we're going to talk about Al Bull and is he getting fired, the athletic director. We're going to talk about Roy Williams and is he leaving. I said, if you got a feature to write, you stand down and you wait. I said, and I shouldn't have said this because it was a long time ago, right? So I wasn't as old as I am now. I wouldn't do it that way now,
right?
And I wasn't as qualified to do what I did then as I would be now. I said, listen, let the adults in the room speak.
Wow.
Okay, so. I said, everybody in here.
Did you follow it up by going, and the men?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that was a joke.
But I said, there are 2 subjects. And I said, if you have a question other that's anything about it, I said, this is not going to be 2 questions. And Roy says, I don't want to talk about it and run. You better have follow-ups. This is the fucking subject. I didn't say fucking there, right? But I'm like, this is it. These are the topics. I said, I respect if you've got some feature you got to write or whatever. But we're not, those questions are not coming out until Roy has been hit in numerous directions. I said, he says he's not going anywhere, he's not want to talk about it, then you find a new way to ask the next one.
Kirk.
Two.
Yeah, Kirk. There's 2 subjects here, assholes. 2. That's it. Christ, you're like squaring up with 68-year-old feature writers.
No, but and listen, Doug Tucker was the Associated Press writer at the time. Great writer, great sports guy. He's like, I got your back. Absolutely, let's do this.
You know what? I totally admire it because there are so many press conferences I'm at, and that stuff starts to happen where it's on. And UFC is really big on it. Like there are people in the room who want to be sympathizers, and they're like, let's soften everything. Let's give them a break. I'm like, no,
I'll give them a softball, then they'll like me.
Yeah, they don't care who you are. You're not scoring points, putts. They don't like any of us for the most part. So get in there and do your job. And all you're doing is getting in the way of the mission. So get out. You can ask the stupid questions later.
I think you're respected more for asking the question. You got to do it the right way. You don't go like, Roy, is your dumbass going to North Carolina when this is over? Like, that's not how you do it, right? But, there's a right way. And you ask the question the right way when he gets pissy and say, Coach, I know you said that you're not going to entertain this, but is this a distraction for your team? All the rumors that are out there that you're going to North Carolina. Make him answer it that way. Okay, now you got to go for your players. And he goes through that and go, Coach, the reports are that you and the athletic director are not getting along. Is that a distraction for your team? Is that a distraction for your coaching staff? I'm not talking about this, and that. Coach, I know this is a big time for recruiting, the exposure of your program, but with how do you deal on the recruiting side when it says you're going to North Carolina and your athletic director you're not getting along with? Is that affecting, the message that's trying to get out there? There are 19 different ways to ask the same question and make him keep going and answering it because there is no other fucking story to talk about. So hit him with the questions that need to be done. And here's lesson 1, snot nose. Figure out a way to reposition the same question because there's no other story. That's right. Yeah. War and press conferences, very similar.
Yeah,
Going to the beach at Normandy and talking to Roy Williams, same thing.
You have 2 possible answers, and we're going to get them out of you. That's awesome.
I've done it a couple other times, subtler. I did it at a Chiefs one. I don't remember where it was because that's a tiny little room, and I just remember all right, listen. Anybody trying to be a kiss ass and be somebody's buddy here today, like knock it the fuck off. We're coming in with the A game, so there are real questions that have to be asked. So sit it out with your coach. It's I'll look at the guy like nowadays. You got to deal with the team paid for media guys, and the Chiefs have always had pretty good ones, so I haven't had to deal with them. But I remember there was somebody, I don't know, was it an MLB guy or who was? I remember telling somebody, listen. I know you're on the payroll. The real questions got to get asked today. So don't jump in with, how about the fans today?
Do you crack a smile? Do you crack a smile after you say it that way, or?
Yeah, I don't do it like we're gonna fight, but like I say it loud so everybody else hears it, and they're under pressure. Like, okay, every other media member in here just knows you got put. That I just called you out. I know your bullshit tactic is. Yeah. Well, how about the fans today, Skip? Eat right. Shit. That is the topic today.
You got a rhythm. You're 3 questions in and 8 questions, and someone breaks in with some stupid nonsense. We're going to give the coach a break. No, there's no break.
How about those powder blue uniforms? Boy, they look good on a sunny day. Shut up.
Yeah, you'd have fun in the if Adam Hill was here tonight. He's got some issues in the Golden Knights media room. So,
listen.
There's a lot of kissing up. There's a lot of, hey, I want to make sure I keep my relationships and my job, and I'm going to be nice.
So here's the thing: does anybody that keeps that lobs those softballs ever break anything? I would venture to say no. The people that break stories, in this town, you're respected because they know you. There are questions that have to be asked. Again, I'm not saying go in there and be like, what the fuck. No, it's like, hey, coach, you ask it with a decent tone and you do it, the right way. And you find a new way to position it and come back around and say, well, coach, listen, Andy Reid never wanted to answer any question about Eric Berry for an entire year. And Everyone. He's literally day to day, guys. He's literally day to day. Coach, is it difficult to prepare your defense when a guy is day to day, but then he never plays? Do you prepare with them or without him? The subject is Eric Berry. How is this guy still like what is going on with this shit? Right? Like that's what everyone wants to know. So you got to find a new way to be like, Coach, I got it. He's day to day. So when there is this question mark, you prepare like he's going to be there and then scramble on game day, or do you prepare like he's not? And whenever he does play, he's got to scramble on game day. There's always a legitimate way to put it back onto the subject. What is that?
Well, the guy from The Athletic, Jesse, he's like Mr. Positivity and is kind of Mr. Kiss Ass. And I don't think sin bin's that way, but I don't want to get into a whole explanation of what they are. But what Brady says here is very accurate, that people in the organization, they know what's going on. When you're a kiss ass and you're staying around and you're just cozying up the players and you're not actually developing stories, you're not recording it, you're just trying to kind of feel cool and belong. I get to talk to Fleury for a couple extra minutes. People see that, and that does hurt your cause in terms of actually getting scoops down the road. And what Brady says here, VGK does this. Now, I think this happens a lot now. Like, I don't know if it happens with the Chiefs and NFL Network. Almost everything with the Raiders gets leaked immediately to Ian Rappaport because he works for the NFL, and that's kind of the deal. VGK, it'll generally be a guy who works for NHL.com, and frankly, I think sometimes it's guys in Canada, and then people on the ground here are like, oh, okay, I guess that's the breaking news. But some of that is because of the lack of respect for people who appear to be, a bit amateurish and not objective and want to be fans.
I think there is a way to, this is a hard subject to talk about without going, hey, here's number one. I'm not somebody that says, listen, if you listen to me, you know the stories I've broken, you know the insight I've given you, and you either do or don't, right? I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, here's my greatest hits, right? But so it's hard to talk about without giving a specific example and betraying somebody's trust. But there is a way to be respectful, but be knowledgeable, and to go to. I think there are still people with teams, organizations, schools that respect doing it the right way and understand that, like, I'm not out to get anybody. I don't want anybody fired, right? I'm not the coach killer, that kind of shit that you hear from some jackass in a lot of markets. And their idea is to just bitch about everyone. But, like, I do think that it's beneficial for the teams, for fans to get real knowledge, right? And I think there are things that the teams are better off having out there, but not having it come from them. And I think there are still smart people out there that get that. Like, I don't think, whether it's like this player's dogging it, like the fans seem to love him. So, like, it's not the worst thing if some people, like, hey, I don't know, is the guy really giving it 100%? I mean, there's still, you still have to build relationships. And I think a lot of media people, and I think part of it is a lot of media people are underpaid. A lot of good people that would be great at these jobs go do something else because, the pay sucks to get going, to get started in it.
Yeah.
And then at times to be at the end of it, like us, but, like,
yeah,
it's a funny business. But yeah, the kids asking questions, like, could the fucking teachers like give them real questions to ask? I mean,
well, it's not. There's just certain times it's not practice time. It's not. Let me try out my skills. Let me hone my skills. There's just certain press conferences you got to wait until the end, and there's a lot of media people can't read rhythm, and that you're going in a direction, and or some hey, sometimes. I could see it the other day. It's it's whatever. It's low level stuff. It's UNLV football, and I could see one of the guys has a feature working. He's got 3 questions in a row. I'm not going to jump in with something that's completely out of left field. I mean, I'll tell you that the other day I was like, I don't know. I don't feel like spring practice is. If you got a 5th-year running back, UNLV is a 5th-year running back, and he's back, and it's like, hey, how is this practice different? It's like he just had a kid. Let's ask about the kid. Yeah. Right. So I threw a couple questions out, and then actually one of our buddies in the media asked a great question about, what's harder to hold on to, a football or a baby girl. So he got a good answer out of it.
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like, but there were you could feel like the two of us knew what something was going here and might get like 3 or 4 good answers. It's not a hard thing. That's more of a feature thing. But so many times people are just like, the other one is you don't have to ask a question.
Oh God, I know.
You can just sit there for 12 questions if you got nothing, then don't say anything.
Yeah. I've got, some of the guys that run the team's media, and they'll be like, all right, Petra, I know you got something. Nah, actually, there isn't anything else. That's it. And then like the player will walk away, and I'll be like, hey, so-and-so. I mean, that game was a shitbird. Like, I ain't got anything. They know it sucked. Like, hey, what do you want me to ask him? Where do you suck? When do you suck? You plan on sucking tomorrow? Like, there's nothing to ask this guy today, right? I'll just sit here and listen to whatever. Some of the beat guys have to get a quote. Hey, that one shit pitch you threw. What happened? Whatever. Baseball's an interesting one. I always give the beat guys the first go round, right? Like, here it is, and let them get all their stuff out, and then you go. I mean, I think I ask good questions, but like the guy who feels like he's got to be first, there's a pecking order of how it works.
That too, yep.
And you got to understand, am I the guy who gets first call? Like beat guys that are grinding it out and have to turn something around today, they get something. I mean, I think I know where my place is. I also am not, what pisses me off more than anything? I love when we talk shop here because I don't know if anybody gives a shit, but at least gives me a chance to vent. You like a baseball clubhouse, and you're around the locker, the starting pitcher, everybody needs his comments. And the writer who thinks he's got to stand right the fuck in front of the pitcher and make the camera guys who have to get a shot try to scramble around and hold the camera up here. Get your ass. The camera guys need the shot. Right. The radio guys need the mic in front. Writers really should be like, it should be like, you're in back. But these writers that want to be right in front, I got to be right up in front. Can you not hear?
Which, by the way,
I have great respect for writers, but give the camera guys their shot. Let the radio guys get their mic up there. Like, you don't need perfect audio to transcribe a quote, you jackass.
Can we close on something else that I think only the two of us care about? Not the overall theme, but just because we're involved in it. Are you good at fantasy baseball anymore?
No.
I was trying to check out your team here as it's loading.
My NL team appears to be doing well, but I just lost Tatis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not judging off of the 5 games. Just
no. I think my NL team. Well, here's what's funny is I prepped the AL team. It's shit. The NL team I winged. I told you I didn't even have the software. I didn't even have the other teams loaded in. I was just dealing with CBS's software, which is not good.
Oh,
I brought up a catcher, who's actually hit a home run. I brought up a catcher because he was the top guy on the list. I don't know why CBS ranked him at the top. I don't know what ranking thing it was. I brought up a backup catcher like early in the draft for $1 and then had to sit there and hope somebody went 2 because somebody thought I had a snitch on something. No, nobody bid on him. So I got stuck with that. That filled out my catcher spot. But my NL team is good.
By the way, that was National League with your catcher?
Yeah, Andrew Knapp, the backup catcher with the Phillies. Yeah, because JT Realmuto is not going to play much. Knapp's going to muscle his way in there, right? Like, I couldn't even – everyone's like, oh, fucking Philly catcher, not Realmuto. What? And so, no, I am literally dart throws these days. So much of it's like when the software does so much of the work for everybody.
You got Paxton too. Oh God.
I got Paxton and listen
already.
Tatis goes down. I turned on. I shit you not. I texted JB. He can send you the text.
Yeah.
I turned on the Mariners and whoever they were playing last night. And I'm like, oh, Paxton's going. I'm looking on my live score. I'm like, oh, I'm going to turn the Mariners game on. I turned the Mariners game on. You know what I saw? The pitch he threw that he got hurt on. First pitch I saw was Paxton coming off, grimace and going back up there. I'm like, you've got to be shitting me. I literally am catching just the pitch that's going to send him out of the game. So bad. No, I'm terrible. I've lost. No.
No, this is the problem. There is no software that he's using. He's relying on the league host, CBS, and that site has they're just collecting money now, and they're like, we'll maintain it when we feel like it. Like our crew of guys who used to put up information and predictions and projections.
They just, all their stuff's from RotoWire now.
Oh, it is?
All their write-ups are RotoWire.
Oh, I didn't. I thought both sites had different stats, so some of the projections were just ridiculous.
I mean, well, yes, their projection software is different, but their information, CBS, I don't even think employs anybody. They employ RotoWire, and so, but their software, their draft software, I mean, it blows. There's not a snitch anywhere. I mean, yeah, their draft projections suck.
Please
so
tell me.
we were in an auction room, and all I had to go on was the list that was up there on CBS, and I didn't know I had enough time to load in. I did a good job of prepping the American League. My team sucks, but I had a bad team coming back, so that's not shocking. I don't know that I shit the bed in the draft. Where am I tonight? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Oh,
I was looking at your overall roster, so
yeah.
There's some trades to be made. You got a shot.
Yeah. But no, are you good at it?
My problem is I draft the same sort of team every year, so I have the same flaws every year. I thought I actually did okay in both. I will say my one big flaw is I rolled the dice. I have 3 DHs, and finally one of them played the outfield. Like, I'm just waiting this first week for guys to just play the field so I can actually play all of them. I've been rotating Nelson Cruz, JD Martinez, and Yordan Alvarez. So when, of course, I don't know that I'm picking the right guy every day. They're all good, but I can't play them all. So that might have been my downfall.
So let me ask you this: is Madison Bumgarner good?
I don't think so.
No.
I love him, and I was in on him when we were bidding on him, and then it got to a point I'm like, what am I doing? He's like, folks, we do an auction league, and you have $264 to spend. So the players go anywhere from $1 to like $45. A good pitcher, a high level pitcher can be like $35. Most of the pitchers are 15 on down. Mad Bum at this point, he used to be a $30 pitcher. Now at this point, he's like a $3 pitcher. And I think in our league, we paid like 10 for him. And I was bidding people up, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I'm looking forearm for Paxton, which means Tommy John's coming, I'm sure. Left forearm strain, MRI Wednesday. That's going to be a disaster. Yeah, so the American League, I am 10th of 11 teams. I was like 8 points higher a day ago, so that team sucks. And the National League, I was in first place. I have now fallen to 4th. I mean, it's early. There are big swings, but
every day is like going to be a massive swing. So
Bumgarner gave up 5 today and 5. That was a shit deal. Lamet is probably going to go under the knife and not pitch, and so
he's got a forearm too.
Yeah, listen, I've taken to the Cofield method. Just go for all the guys that are hurt already. That's my old guys and hurt guys. The Steve Cofield strategy.
I've gotten a little better. I used to be big on the corner guys who were good like 7 years ago, and I'd get them for cheap, and I'd be like, oh, this is awesome, man. Then the guy hits 230 with 17 bombs and 38 ribbies.
So we have one of the things, like, I am very competitive. So we have a drag on tanking, right? Like in tanking works, like having played fantasy sports that have keepers and dynasty leagues and stuff like that. Tanking's real. It works. And any professional sports team that doesn't do it's just a bunch of dumbasses, period. End of discussion. That's it. You're dumbasses. Once you realize you can't win, you should tank. It's that simple, and fantasy sports has taught that lesson a million times. So what I will do is I will tank and go for the win, but we put in a drag on tanking. So like our entrance fee is $150, but only 6th place pays $150, right? So we have 11 teams. So 5th place pays $120 for an entrance fee. 4th from last year, 4th pays $90, 3rd pays $60, 2nd pays $30, and 1st gets a free entrance fee. But going down, 7th pays $180, 8th pays $210, 9th pays $240, 10th pays $270, and 11th has to pay $300. So we put a drag on it. The only reason I've won the number of championships that I've won is I'll pay $600 entrance fee.
Right.
If that's what it takes to reload the team and go. And we have some guys that are like, I got to try to get 2 spots higher so I don't have to pay as much an entrance fee. I'm like, well, that ain't my concern. I'm like, hey, give me this guy. I'll give you all this that'll make your team way better. I'll give you this guy. I'll give you the best prospect around. I need this guy to win this year. No, dude, I got to try to, I got to try to win. I got to try to get up, from 8th to 6th, so I don't have to pay as much money. That ain't me. So I've that's been my key to the successes that I've had.
You're good. You're better than me. So you've won a lot more than me. I'm a refuse to quit guy. So I'm always in like, I can be in the running some years, but I'm always whatever 3rd to 7th place, and I will never fully tank because I'm always like, I got a chance.
By May 15th, I will either be in go for it mode or tank, and any day after May 15th, I may decide to tank. Right? It's like, so like if I look at it and go, that guy got hurt, he's got this, I can't get him, I'm out. Like all I give a shit about is winning. I do not give a shit about 2nd or 3rd. If I think I got a shot at winning, and I lost one year by half a point to Chuck, and that will haunt me for the rest of my life. I mean, that's all I give a shit about. Like if I don't think I can win, then I'm tanking.
Let's close on a serious story, and then we're out of here. Mark, here in Vegas, what's going on now with Britt Reed? I
mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I was told that this would take time. I think we're getting to the point where we got to be towards the end of that time. That toxicology report, all these different things that have to go into it are going to take time. So everyone thought, well, okay, we just wait for a blood alcohol test to come back. And then, that I think the fact that I don't think it's a positive for Britt Reed not facing charges. I think it's a case of the police department, a prosecuting attorney building an airtight case.
There you go.
But I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I don't have a source telling me that. I'm just telling you, as a guy who's looking at it and trying to be reasonable, that's what it seems to me. He has not been all clear. So we're still waiting. Not that I know of, and that's it. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, that's interesting. I think there may be a little bit of out of sight, out of mind, and maybe those of us in the Kansas City media have not pushed the issue, but I will push it tomorrow.
All right. Sounds like a